Though not a New England native, Kat Child has become a Maine enthusiast since migrating from North Carolina 4 years ago. She is excited to use her ever growing passion for the state to help serve the Maine Office of Tourism and other regional clients in her position as account coordinator at Marshall Communications. With valuable experience in the advertising industry under her belt, she strives to showcase clients' unique values through strategic planning, social media marketing, and copywriting. Kat's innate curiosity keeps her learning every day, whether that's listening to a new podcast or reading up on the latest social media trends. She finds creative inspiration from Maine's picturesque woods and waters and aspires to bring that joyful energy into her work. Committed to client satisfaction and stellar work, Kat seeks to embrace each day with optimism, inquisitiveness, and a strong work ethic. Welcome to the PR Maven Podcast, a podcast all about growing your network and building your brand through traditional and digital networking techniques. I'm Nancy Marshall, the PR Maven and CEO of Marshall Communications. I've been strengthening brands through PR for over 35 years, and now I'm celebrating the success of executives, influencers, business owners, and entrepreneurs from all around the world, all of whom have cultivated their brands and broadened their networks through traditional and digital networking methods. Each week, I interview one of these interesting and influential individuals and provide an opportunity for you, the PR Maven Nation, to gain insights from their strategies and stories. So stay tuned for this week's episode, and thanks for listening. So, Kat, tell us about your career and how you got into it in the first place.
Awesome. So I actually started off my freshman year of college, my first semester, thinking that I wanted to be a marine biologist.
I never knew. Wow.
So my career definitely changed course for sure once I realized that marine biology is a lot more than turtles and cute wildlife and chemistry. But then I knew I wanted to do something creative, and I always was pulled to writing. So I went to UNC Chapel Hill, and they have a great journalism program. So they had some awesome classes and opportunities to really hone my skills in the communication sector, whether that was journalism, advertising, or PR. They had different options and courses. And that opened a lot of doors for me, a lot of different possibilities. The professors were very well-connected people, as were alumni. And so it was just a matter of putting myself out there to really start making those connections and getting internships. And from there, I connected with an alumni who lived in Boston and worked at an agency there. And one day she posted on LinkedIn that MullenLowe had just gone global and that there were 70 new positions open.
Wow.
And if you wanted it, you should contact her. And so, of course, it was my semester. I graduated and says, this looks good. I'll message her. And it ended up working out really well. I connected with her, had a phone call. And then from there, we set up, I was offered an interview in Boston. And then I flew there and had an in-person interview. And then I was offered a job. And so I was really surprised because I kind of first saw myself staying in North Carolina. But that changed. And then I was there for 3.5 years with a wonderful team and learned a lot. And now excited to be in Maine with you.
Yeah. Well, we're excited that you're here too. And one of the things that we discovered early on is you worked on the U.S. Cellular account. And Marshall PR handled U.S. Cellular way back, like kind of at the advent of the cellular cell phone.
That's amazing. I love it.
Yeah. So I remember, well, we were promoting the bag phone, which were these big honking phones that people would plug into their cigarette lighter in their car. and I remember that U.S. Cellular saying, oh, yes, these phones are going to change the way everybody lives and works. And I was like, oh, yeah, right. I'll believe it when I see it. And they have. I mean, today, actually, whenever I see somebody who's like walking along the side of the road, looking at their phone, or even worse, driving and looking at their phone, which you see all the time, I'm like, oh, yeah, these little things they have, they're little now. They weren't little, they were big then.
Yeah, you could get caught easier if you were driving and looking at this
Actually,
giant...
there was nothing to look at then because we didn't even have screens.
What am I thinking? Not that young. I do remember that.
Yeah.
That's so funny. Wow.
Yeah, they have changed the way we live.
Was it called a bag phone because you could take it on the go? Was that the idea?
Yeah, well, it was in a bag.
What? It was in a bag?
Yeah. It was in a black case. It was in a black leather case. Yeah.
That's so interesting.
And it had this coily cord that you would plug into your cigarette lighter.
So fascinating. Wow.
Yeah.
Gotta look it up.
Yeah, and it was very expensive at the time too. I don't think they even had monthly packages. You just you would get a bill where you paid by the minute, and sometimes it was like,
that is so
oh,
true.
This bill is so high.
Where you run out of minutes or whatever. Forgot about that.
So that's an example of technology that has really changed drastically in the last 20 years.
Yes,
for sure, and it's changing by the day, the minute.
Yeah.
So we hired you at Marshall Communications to work as an account coordinator during COVID-19. And we didn't even meet in person until a month after you had started work. And actually, that was just for a walk. We met on the Eastern Prom in Portland and went for a walk together. And actually, today is this is like the second time we've been in person together.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
It's hard because of Zoom.
Yeah.
I feel like we've been together more. But what was it like to do your interviews by Zoom and not even meet in person for so long?
It's funny. I would have thought that doing an interview on Zoom would be less nerve-wracking, maybe because you are at home and you can kind of control things. But it ended up that I was obsessive about how the environment looked and the lighting and everything, and the Wi-Fi, just wanting to make sure everything was perfect. And then, of course, you can't control certain things, if there's a garbage truck that comes by or something. And I remember the first time we interviewed, I was mortified because my audio was making you sound like a chipmunk.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, can I go through this interview and just pretend that that's not happening and just not say anything? And I was like, no, I have to because I can't understand what she's saying.
Yeah, you're going to be working with Alvin and the Chipmunks now.
So I was like, I cannot do that. But the good thing was that you and Charlene were such wonderful people. You put me at ease and it was fine. But it definitely was a different experience for sure. But it spoke to you all because I was able to get a good feel for your personalities just through a video chat, which was very helpful.
Well, it's funny that you said you were obsessive about everything because a little secret, Charlene and I have some OCD tendencies also.
Oh my gosh.
So
I relate.
I mean, for better or for worse, we do kind of obsess about the details, and that's really what everything in business is made up of. It's
exactly.
A million little details.
That's what I like to think. I'm like, it is for the better. Sometimes it's for the worse, but mostly for the better.
Yeah, I know. I wish we could chillax a little better. But...
Yep, that's a great way to put it.
So, Kat, your degree is in journalism, yet you have done a lot of work in digital marketing and advertising. What skills from journalism, digital marketing, and advertising are you applying at your job at Marshall Communications for our clients?
Definitely. I think there's several things that I've learned that were seeded in my university years, and then through experience working in advertising, really, I came to know to be true. And these are concepts that are pretty established in the industry, but something that I strive to bring into my work each day. And I think the concept of surprise and delight is something that I learned to be so true and necessary. Just having that, being able to evoke that response in people is something I try to keep in mind, whether it's a full blog post or a social post, something that will stop someone scrolling and evoke a pleasant response. So that's something just in general, I think, that is something important across advertising, public relations, and social media. And then also the idea that simple can be better. I think so much of the time you want to get a lot in, but it's true, I learned just how short people's attention spans are. And it's really important to engage them and keep the message simple so that the message actually comes across and your brand comes across. And then just lastly, just being curious and wanting to learn more, because I think in your personal life, having that appetite for reading or listening to podcasts or going to museums, like things seemingly unrelated to work, can evoke an inspirational mindset that can really help you in your work. And I think that's something that I learned, because it's very easy for me to get into my habits and routines, and I love my habits and routines, but there is a benefit to changing things up, seeking out new opportunities, and it can impact your work in a positive way.
I agree, absolutely. I call that the shiny object syndrome. And actually some people can call it squirrel, because, you know, you were talking about how people are so easily distracted. And I think part of that is brought on by the cell phone. You know, I know that over the years that I've had my smartphone, in air quotes, you know, my attention span is shorter and shorter, because I'm always like, uh-oh, I got a message, I better respond. And
exactly. Yeah. Going from one thing to the next in hyper speed.
Right, exactly. And then that shiny object syndrome, you know, I think it is good to be grounded in good habits and routines, but then to be open to try new things. So it's a fine balance between the two.
Exactly. Yeah. You want to schedule, but you want to break it up a little sometimes too.
Exactly. And then you talked about going to museums. And one thing I'm excited about, I don't know if you saw, the Portland Museum of Art is opening up again.
Yes.
I think they opened yesterday. So,
oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I do get inspired by going to museums, and I want to go to the Portland Museum of Art and check that out. And also the Farnsworth Museum up in Rockland. That's where there's a huge collection of Wyeth paintings.
Oh,
so
wow.
That's a really wonderful place to go.
I've never been there. I should check it out.
Yes, you should plan a trip.
Absolutely, yeah.
So can you talk about one project you've worked on so far at Marshall Communications that has really excited you?
Yes. Well, there's so many. But one that's been really awesome is working on the social for Cruise Maine, which is so funny because obviously right now is not the time for cruising.
No.
By any means. But I think it speaks to the power of what we do to be able to take a different approach and connect and promote local businesses within our ports as well as promoting just the overall beauty of the seascapes and our harbors in Maine. Those are parts of cruising that people miss, and I think it'll be what brings people back. And so it's a nice way to remind people of that while we're not on the seas right now, there will be a time when we will be, and it's gotten a positive response on social media, and so I think that has been an enjoyable part because I feel like I'm connecting to other businesses and being a part of that lending a hand kind of mindset, I guess, in terms of through our client, which is a great experience. And on a personal level, I've discovered a lot more of new restaurants, and that's been great.
Yeah, I know. Well, one of the things that I just love about the coast of Maine is all the little coastal communities, and each one has its own personality. And, it's a combination of the restaurants and the stores and also just the beautiful homes.
Yes.
Actually, last Sunday, I had the chance to fly from Portland to Rockland and back in my son's plane. My son has a Cessna 172,
right.
and it was amazing to be up in the air and look down at places like Cushing and Friendship and Damariscotta and Harpswell, Boothbay Harbor, all of these beautiful coastal towns. And it almost seemed like they were like in a creche or, a vignette or something that you would set up on your mantelpiece because they're like a fairy book village.
That's so true.
Yeah.
And it sounds so beautiful.
Yeah, it was. It was really amazing. And actually, but when you cruise the coast of Maine, going into these little harbors and anchoring is one of the wonderful things, a wonderful way to visit. I've always thought that to see Maine from the water as opposed to like from Route 1 is in traffic.
It's going to be a better experience.
Yeah. So you and I connected through a mutual connection. And actually, this is kind of the premise of this whole podcast is about strengthening your network and strengthening your brand through connecting both in person and online. And, we have these mutual friends, the Van Allens, that I know through work, but I've kind of become friends with them personally, and you go way back. So talk about that, and how did that introduction happen?
Yes, it was the lovely Jen Van Allen who works at Down East Magazine. And I was at a point in my career where I knew I wanted a change. I was interested in incorporating more writing into my career. And I also knew that I wanted to eventually be in Maine, as I was currently in Boston. But it seemed so formidable to be able to move and get a job that I liked within Maine because of the fact that all my connections, my professional network was in North Carolina and Boston. So I didn't really have anyone necessarily in Maine. But in connecting with my family and, just voicing my thoughts and concerns, it was mentioned to me that Jen, who is the family friend by marriage, my brother and sister-in-law's aunt, she was a writer, and I was encouraged to connect with her. So I sent her an email, and she answered right away. And we ended up corresponding on and off for about a year and a year and a half maybe. And then things sort of faded away just naturally based on where I was in my career and where she was. And then during COVID, I just thought, I'll just reach out and see how she's doing. And it was wonderful. She was able to connect me to you. And when I was connected to you, I thought, I don't know. I mean, I don't think anything might come of this, but it'll be a wonderful way to get to know someone. But then it ended up being a career opportunity, so you just never know. And that's the truth.
Exactly. Yeah, I always say you never know, and you shouldn't go into a new relationship thinking about what it's going to deliver back to you. Just again, I think it goes back to the be curious statement. Just be curious about other people and see if a relationship can form. And actually, when Jen first approached me, we didn't have any openings, and so I agreed, because I think so highly of her and her husband Peter. I agreed to just do an informational interview, and I think we did that first. It was just a informational interview, but
Yep.
then we did all of a sudden have an opening, and I wanted to fill that quickly. So yeah, it worked out perfectly that you were right there, and you had already moved to Portland, so
Yeah.
you were available, and you just kind of, it was sort of seamless, and and you didn't even come
know,
into
it was
the office.
crazy.
You haven't even been to the office
I have
yet.
not. I did get a virtual tour,
Oh, good.
but
Yeah.
yeah, crazy.
Well, we're going to take a short break now and be back with Kat shortly. But first, I want to tell you about my new book, which is called Grow Your Audience, Grow Your Brand, available on Amazon.com as a paperback or Kindle. And I will soon be recording it for Audible as well. And it's essentially about building your network and how the more connected you are personally, or the more well-known your brand is, through building an audience by putting content out there that serves your audience, that your brand and your network will grow. So we'll be back in just a moment after we hear a little bit about our message mapping mastery course.
Do you want to grow your client or customer base? Perhaps increase brand awareness? Maybe tell your unique story more effectively? Of course you do. But you may be worried that you don't have enough expertise to make that happen. Well, no worries, PR Maven Nation. Let the PR Maven herself, Nancy Marshall, show you how easy it is to get your message across effectively using a powerful yet simple tool, a message map. Nancy's training is often called informative and constructive, well-designed and impactful, with a perfect blend of theory and real-life experience. You will leverage Nancy's expertise to create your own message map when you register for this comprehensive online video training course, which is broken down into 4 easy-to-understand modules. Normally, this course is priced at $147, but for listeners of the PR Maven podcast, that's you, PR Maven Nation, it's only $29 when you enter the code word podcast during enrollment. It even includes a workbook and bonus content to guide you through the process. So go to prmaven.com and click on the Message Map Mastery course to enroll today. Remember, enter the word podcast during enrollment for a special discounted price of $29.
So, Kat, you love to hike and explore the outdoors in Maine. What is your favorite thing to do in Maine during your free time?
It's hard to pick, but I really enjoy going to the beach, whether it's in the winter or summer. My niece and I collect sea glass, and we enjoy doing that together, although sometimes she picks up broken bottles. I'm like, not that one. She's only 5. And enjoying the wonderful food here. So lucky for that. Whether it's a food truck on the prom most recently, I could probably spend a good portion of my paycheck on food trucks. Not great, but very delicious.
Yeah.
And yeah, beautiful. So many beautiful places to hike. I like to use Maine by Foot. They are a great hiking website, and it's has a very personal feel. So you really feel like you know what to expect before you get there. But anywhere I've gone, I've really enjoyed so much.
Cool. I haven't heard of Maine by Foot. I'll check that out. But I use MaineTrailFinder.com.
Yes, that's a great one too.
Yeah, and actually, because I have a cottage up on Damascotta Lake, and I recently found just a short hike up in Jefferson that I found on Maine Trail Finder, and it's so fun to find a new place to go and feel like you're discovering something new in your life. So-
Exactly. Yeah. Especially, it's fun when there's so many to choose from too. Yeah.
Exactly, right. And actually, we're in June of 2020 now, and that's when the State Tourism Office, which is our client, is encouraging people to explore our own state. So, and there are so many restaurants that have been closed that are opening up again. So that's exciting too.
It's awesome. It truly is vacation land.
It is. I know it is. It's kind of ironic that we work in vacation land, but yeah, there's a lot of things to do. So, Kat, is there another app or a book or a website that you have found helpful in your career, and why?
I would say I really like Elizabeth Gilbert's Big Magic, a book that is very inspirational, and you may have read it, but it really places the importance of creativity in your life. And I think it was what got me encouraged to write again, just for my own enjoyment. And I just really love how it positions it as this like necessary force in our lives. But besides that, it's full of like funny anecdotes, heartfelt parts, just thoughts that really want to get you to stay inspired, be open, and improve the way you not only work, but stay creative, and how important that is to your well-being.
I'll have to check that out. I know Elizabeth Gilbert as an author, but I haven't seen Big Magic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out.
It's a great one.
And what is your favorite social media platform, and why?
I would have to say, so originally it was long ago. I don't know if this is valuable material, but I originally loved Vine before this will date me.
Right.
But it was the best, and I just don't know how I feel about TikTok. But Vine I loved mostly because it featured newsreel bloopers, and that is like my favorite thing of all time. I just can't get enough of those.
Oh, that's so funny.
And if I'm having a bad day, I just watch a newsreel blooper on YouTube.
Oh, that's
But
so funny.
now, I think probably Instagram, which I guess is very standard, but it's a wonderful and quick way to see what everyone is up to. It's very simple. You see a picture and a caption, and you can scroll on, like it or not. And then obviously with stories, you kind of get insight into what people are up to at the moment, or even the live stories, which you can see play by play in real time. So I would say that one.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I remember Vine also.
Do you? I was wondering. Yeah.
It wasn't that long ago, but yeah, I remember that. And of course, I recently got a TikTok account for Marshall Communications because I wanted to just grab that so nobody else would get it.
I love that. I think it's a good, bold move.
Yeah.
I'm still accepting it, but I think it's good.
We need to put something on there, so we'll have
to forge ahead.
Yeah, we'll have to strategize on that.
Yeah.
Well, what is one last thing you'd like to share with PR Maven Nation today?
I think just the sentiment that you don't have to necessarily, but you should not feel the need to stay in one career path just because you're not completely miserable. And you don't have to keep doing the same things if your heart is telling you you're interested in other areas or other places. And I think for so long, I didn't think that what I fully wanted was possible. And so I thought it was better to just accept a pretty good fit for me. But the reality was that there was other possibilities, and I believe it is possible to be passionate about your work and where you live. And I would just encourage people to stay curious and open, as you said, to meeting new people. And you just never know where that will lead.
That's right. Absolutely. And I always think that when a person is in their 20s, that's the time that you should experiment with jobs and with relationships and with everything else, because then once you get settled down, it's a long time that you're, and not necessarily that you have to stay in the same job, but still, I feel like the 20s is a good time to experiment with a lot of different situations.
Thanks, Nancy. Now in my 30s, I'll be a heart surgeon, and then I'll just keep trying different things.
Right. It'll be like the movie Catch Me If You Can, and you can be a pilot one day and a surgeon the next day.
Exactly.
How can people connect with you, Kat?
Definitely. So you could find me on LinkedIn as Kat Child, which is K-A-T, and child has no S. Or you can email me at kchild@marshallpr.com.
All right, great. Well, this has been a lot of fun. I enjoyed chatting with you. And I know that all of your friends and family will enjoy hearing about your life in Maine. And I know that PR Maven Nation is curious about what it's like to work at Marshall PR. So thanks.
Thank you.
And have a great day, PR Maven Nation. That's it for this week's episode. I'd like to thank you for listening, and if you feel that you've gotten value out of today's conversation, consider leaving a 5-star review on iTunes or whatever app you're using to tune in. If you haven't subscribed yet, you should do so. I release a new episode each week, and subscribing will make sure you get an alert when there's a new episode. You can also join the PR Maven Nation by going to prmaven.com/nation and clicking join. It's free, and it's a great community of like-minded individuals who are all looking to learn and grow from one another. If you have an Alexa-enabled device, be sure to add the PR Maven Marketing Minute to your daily flash briefing menu. Thanks again for listening, and have a great rest of your week, PR Maven Nation.